Hello, welcome to the We Are Not Immigrants, Unsettling Asians for America lecture series. Let me bring up my slideshow here just to introduce. Let's see here. Okay, so let me see if this will work. Perfect. Okay, can everyone see the slides here? All good? All right, perfect. Okay, so hello and welcome to our environmental justice guest lecture and speaker series entitled We Are Not Immigrants, Unsettling Asians in America. So a little background on this, on Amado Kaya initiative. AKI is a BIPOC-led project which advances the commitments of late social justice activist and community organizer Amado Kaya Canam Rodriguez. He died at 22 years old in 2020 during the pandemic after supporting an indigenous group in the Philippines suffering from losses due to typhoons. AKI continues his legacy by disseminating indigenous, land-based, decolonial knowledge and promoting individual and collective healing, transformation, and liberation. So one of the ways that we do that is through this lecture series hosted by AKI in collaboration with the Asian American Seed Stewards at UC Davis and Dr. Guyang Chung. So the title of this series, We Are Not Immigrants, Unsettling Asians in America, is inspired both by Hawaiian sovereignty activist and professor of Hawaiian studies, Hanani K. Trask poem, Settler Not Immigrants, as well as Native American studies scholar Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz's book, Not a Nation of Immigrants. So we're really questioning the idea of what does it mean to be an Asian in America? What does it mean to be part of that settler colonialism kind of project, right? And so the series hosts lectures and conversations with Asian American and other scholars and activists of color who write about or are actively resisting white settler colonialism in California and beyond through work with indigenous communities, environmental justice, and or land stewardship. It also holds space for Asian American identified folks, which is the main audience for AKI and the Asian American Seed Stewards, to listen and learn from indigenous peoples to encourage us to challenge and resist our complicities with white settler colonialism as residents on Turtle Island. Just a reminder, our series will run from April to June with specific dates and speaker information to be announced periodically. Be sure to follow us on IG at Amado Kaya and subscribe to our newsletter at amadokaya.org to stay updated. And if you like this series and you want more projects like this, please consider supporting us by donating. Donations allow us unrestricted funding to continue our programming in environmental justice, indigenous solidarity, and more, especially in the context of AB 715. It is an assembly bill that is currently being introduced to the Senate, I believe. And it will basically, it's attacking and censoring K-12 education, especially ethnic studies, to kind of counter quote unquote anti-Semitism. But what that really means is censoring and cutting down knowledge and education about settler colonialism, imperialism, which we know that Palestine is undergoing a genocide right now. So this bill is trying to really censor all of that information. And I do urge you to kind of learn more about this bill and take actions, right? And again, all of this information we will share and upload after this session. And without further ado, I'm proud to introduce Alfred Melbourne from Three Sisters Gardens, who will be speaking on food sovereignty. So Three Sisters Gardens is a 501c3 founded in 2018 by Alfred Melbourne, a Fort Peck Assiniboine Sioux, with a mission to give back to the community by inspiring and empowering at potential high promise youth through farming. Through youth internships, community workshops, and demonstration organic farms, TSG promotes health and self-reliance by teaching our community how to grow, harvest, prepare, and distribute healthy, organic, nutrient-dense vegetables. TSG is based on traditional Native American values of respecting Mother Earth and all living things. And without further ado, I'll pass it on to you, Alfred.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you all for your patience. I will admit that I'm much better with a shovel than with the computer most times. But very, very important topics that we'll be discussing today. So I'm glad that you all could be here in supporting the folks with the Amado Kaya initiative. It's been um, news to me, and since I've learned about the folks and the work that they do, land stewardship, and definitely wanted to align our organization with you all and share our story out here in West Sacramento as we're growing a revolution, rebuilding urban soil. So yeah, my name is Alfred Melbourne. I'm the founder and director, Three Sisters Gardens. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting the At Potential High Promise Youth in West Sacramento, California. We do that through training our youth to grow, harvest, and distribute organic vegetables. You know that Well, we know that, when you feed a kid better, they perform better. Test scores go up and behavioral problems go down. It's science. So for us in a community that has been highly plagued with gang injunction, over criminalizing our youth, school to prison pipeline, um, personally being impacted by the criminal injustice system, I knew that there had to be something that I could do to support our youth and future leaders. The thing is that if any one of our youth fail, it's because we failed them. So knowing that, we have to use, every opportunity possible, um, falling back on native indigenous knowledge and wisdom, connecting to the land. In 2018, I formed the organization Three Sisters Gardens. And the idea then was food sovereignty, survival, and resistance. And we did not promote it just like that out in the open, originally. But we knew then what we know now, even more evident, that there is a climate catastrophe, um, excuse me, a global pandemic. Um, we know that food is medicine, and what better way to, support, our community than to diversify our food system to regenerate the urban soil right underneath our feet. And that's how we came up with the term growing a revolution, rebuilding urban soil, which shouldn't really be that revolutionary. I think that many of our, if not our parents, our grandparents knew how to grow their own food. But what has happened is that, we've become complacent and reliant upon other people to do for us what we can do for ourselves. And then in doing so, becoming reliant, that we've become, um, kind of subject to taking poor opportunities, to not doing the best for ourselves, and feeding ourselves right. So, what we want to do is, show our youth, that we can do better, and that, we can do it by our own hands. And then the best way to do that is to rely upon native indigenous knowledge and wisdom. Don't want to go too far without saying thank you to the native indigenous people of the land that we're on. In the picture you all see behind me, Yochadihi Wintu Nation, Nisenan, Miwok, and Maidu. That's who we have the honor and privilege land to reside on and work on and take care of. So we are land stewards, and we have a sacred duty to protect the land and grow food for the people. It wasn't always this way. Know that once upon a time we used to use the same we used to use the mentality for bad, hustling all the wrong things, mainly pain and hurt and mayhem in our communities. And now we realize, now that we know better, we do better. For me personally, it took a long lesson learning, sitting behind bars for 18 years and coming home and seeing that, there wasn't much opportunity, and that, you have to create opportunity, and, you know, having the ability to, now do good and transform the neighborhood. If I step to the side a little bit, maybe you guys get a little bit more peek, but you guys can see um, of one of the farms on 5th and C Street, you know, we're able to transform the space and grow food for the people. And if any of you have ever been there or will ever go, you'll realize or know that there are no fences. So we would much rather build relationships with the people than build fences. So that's to our benefit and credit. And then, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, that, having spent so much time incarcerated, I personally don't like fences. They're more to keep people in than to keep people out. And of course, the fence would be like $50,000 or something, and we could really use that money to, you know, um, have IndigiFest or throw some other kind of event for the community. We're not trying to waste money like that. But anyways, you guys, so yeah, we're talking about food sovereignty, and food really is the truth and the answer. I've told, our team, and I always will, that, we ain't doing nothing if we're not growing nutrient dense, healthy organic vegetables. And last year, you guys, we were able to grow and donate over 30,000 pounds. So I always clap at that point right there. That's it, pretty huge, 30,000 pounds when you're living in a food desert, is saying a lot. So, this year we're in a position estimated to grow 35,000 plus. And, in a food desert, what we know, again, food is medicine, and building a community giving program that, our community can rely upon, and, continue to build up, so that, again, in case that anything does happen, we have something to fall back on. The big question for me, or the big difference, I should say, between food sovereignty and food security, if we have the two, kind of, food security would be the food banks. And so, if any of you ever have received food from a food bank in an emergency, in a situation, you need some food, you go to a food bank, great, by all means. Not knocking a food bank at all. They do a great job, and they have built a system and a transportation, so they can take food from one place and get it to another. Perishable items, non-perishable items mainly, excuse me. And so um, that's good up until a certain point, when a lot of the companies that are donating a lot of these surplus items, they start realizing, well, they're not buying this much, so we start making less. And they're not buying this that much no more, so we should start making less of this. And then there'll be less that'll end up going to food banks, because they're learning how to make things to their demands of the customers, and be better at that forecasting and XYZ. And then what really good is a box of macaroni if you're an unhoused cat, living on somewhere on the streets, unfortunately, right? It takes a lot to put that together and make it happen. So those are some challenges, right? And the longevity of it, sustainability of it, is not too guaranteed. Well, when it comes to the farm that you all see behind me right there, we've been increasing the soil organic matter, the soil equity, building a relationship with the soil, and doing all the things necessary so that we can have a regenerative, sustainable farm that's going to be able to produce, I'd say this farm in particular, like at least 15, probably half of the 30,000 pounds that we give away. So yeah, that's what we're talking about when it's the difference of food sovereignty. We build the land, we grow the land, we build a relationship with it, we build a rapport with each other, we're able to build community, and then we're able to do for ourselves. And then we don't have to go to somebody and put our hand out. We go to the shed and we put our hand out and we grab a shovel. We go to the shed, we put our hand out and we grab a broad fork. We're able to go and get the tools, of the job, that we're able to be able to take care of the land and grow food for the people. So I'll take food sovereignty over food security any day of the year. Um, excuse me, especially relying upon native indigenous knowledge and wisdom, so that we know that the original caretakers of this land, who was going to have the best knowledge, who's going to know best, someone that just got here 1, 2, 3, 500 years ago, or somebody that's been here for thousands of years, time immemorial, right? And I just had the privilege to welcome the Yochidihi Wintu Nation to our farm today. I just left them at 11:45 and jumped on here, and I had a little confusion with the different meetings, but you know, um, this is the work that we do. We're able to, you know, honor the First Nations people, use the knowledge of these First Nations people to grow with the land and not against it, not commodifying the land, building a relationship with it, and um, just imagine, what comes out of that land, the food that you're able to grow and give to the people. Compare that, and I hate to use fast food as any kind of an example, but dare I say, I haven't had fast food in a little bit now, but you figure like somebody that's going to be handing something to you. Hopefully, they're increasing their wages, so they might be a little happier. But there may not be a whole lot of love in that process, and then even the animals that they're, feeding, who knows what, and all those processes. Compare that to you're able to grow your own food, and everything that went into it, and feeling confident about that. So yeah, you guys, it's a big difference when you're growing your own food and relying on somebody else to take care of you. A lot of you guys that I'm sure are participating in this, are following along and already engaged. And I'm probably, I'm just preaching to the choir here. So I definitely want to thank you guys for, showing up and supporting. I know that Anna made a big, well, not a big, but, mentioned, supporting and donating. And I'll be the first to say that, for a long time, it was, I was being a big pusher of the organization, and, it's heavy lifting that, uh-oh. Hello?
We can still hear you.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, no, sorry. So I thought it was being a call coming in, but wanted to make sure everyone's still there. So, I was doing a lot of the heavy lifting and that stuff, and, it can be, cumbersome. So I want to point out that, organizations like the Amado Kamaya Initiative, Three Sisters Gardens, even other nonprofit organizations could really benefit from the support that you all can give, whether it's just calling in for leaving a message, calling in saying, hey, I support such and such. If you have a couple of extra dollars, that you could donate, great. I always figure that, I would rather take your support through showing up with me at, city council or county supervisors over 20, 30, 40, even $100, because the personal experience and story that you can offer, can really make a difference. Money isn't always the best, but it does help sometimes too, so yes, definitely wanting to make sure that you guys are supporting. And if you guys can't support, then, always sharing the story. So, Three Sisters Gardens has had the benefit and success of really building a grassroots, effort and story from the people up. Um, I tell folks a story sometimes about when they murdered George Floyd, rest in power, in the street, and it was horrific for them to show such a scene, and that mothers throughout the world were called upon in that moment. And in my heart of hearts, you know, after breaking once again, you know, you thought that there would be some change, but, you know, that things continue on in the same way. And we have to know that, you know, if this is what's happening to us, then we have to find ways to become more resilient, to build stronger communities, to do for ourselves, to know that no one else is coming. We are all we got, and we are good. We have either been here or connected to our homelands, indigenous, wherever that is, and fallen upon our cultures and traditions, and doing the right thing. So, you know, for me and particularly, more recently, I've been telling folks that, you know, my job is just to level the playing field, to give us a fighting chance. So all of you are more than welcome to come out and join us at Three Sisters Gardens and join in any capacity. Um, I will shamelessly say that June 14th, we have our biggest event of the year, All Nations Indigifest. It's a free event. It's going to be at the Riverwalk here in West Sacramento between 5 and 10 p.m. It looks like it's going to be fairly cool, maybe the high 80s, low 90s. So, but going to be a lot of awesome people there. I won't go too much into that, but definitely want to give thanks to the folks for inviting me out. I know that there's going to be some Q&A, so I hope that, you know, you guys are thinking of some good questions. And, you know, I tell everybody all the time, we host a lot of groups and tours and whatnot, that more than anything, we're only creating a model. Not only are there's no fences, but it's not proprietary. We want you guys to have what we have. We want you guys to be able to follow our model and grow something like we have where you're at. Not only that, we would help you if we can. You know, we've crossed a lot of bridges, we've learned a lot of things, and, you know, we can help you benefit, you know, from our mistakes. So, you know, it's better to be more resilient and more educated, especially in these trying times. So, yeah, if you all have any questions, thoughts, or ideas, please feel free. I think that we might be opening up here soon. But yeah, you guys, it's a pleasure for me to be able to share our story with you guys. And, you know, if you guys want to jump in at any point, please.
Thank you so much, Alfred, for sharing your story and that of Three Sisters Gardens as well. As I said in the chat, please, if you have any questions for Alfred, please share them in the chat, or you can DM me privately and we will answer them during this Q&A session. But just to start off, you mentioned Indigifest. Could you describe a little bit more about like what it is and what kind of event it is, like, and how it started? Yeah. Oh, sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no, so it's the fourth annual All Nations Indigifest. We actually had one concert previously that we didn't call Indigifest, so it was just a farm concert. And then we were just, Chris, my partner, and I were kind of just thinking like, you know, we should term it something, you know, this was something good after the first farm concert. And, you know, you know, always like, you know, including all things, you know, our elder Crazy Horse and others, you know, say that it's going to take a rainbow coalition of people. It is going to be a rainbow coalition of people that come together that are going to be the change. Um, so, you know, all nations sounds appropriate to me. And then Indigifest, you know, I like that. You know, for us, we always rely upon our indigenous knowledge and wisdom to get us into the future and beyond. So, All Nations Indigifest was born. And so far, it's been a really, really successful event. I mentioned earlier that it's going to be around high 80s, low 90s. It's very important because the last 3 years, it's actually been like, unfortunately, the hottest day on the year. But, you know, those that came out and, you know, braved it with us, saw we had misting fans and we had some misters going and cool stuff going on. But this year's likely going to be cooler, and we're going to be on the river, right next to the river. So very powerful, next to the lifeblood of the people. And, you know, being agricultural people, we know that the water is very important. So we're gonna have some very, very amazing artists. If you guys are familiar with the Tiny Desk NPR contest or Filipina Pinay musicians at all, Ruby Ibarra just won the NPR Tiny Desk contest, and they're going to be joining us for IndigiFest. It's going to be pretty big. And then we have Lila June, the Neighborhood Kids, Bobby Sanchez, and Kim Mortal, all good folks. And then we have a full lineup of local folks. We have Anna Tree, Savo, Mr. Lewis, Issa Jack, Matthew Balling. Hold on. I have the flyer right here. If you can see it. Nope, it didn't show up. But so we have Tamika Denise, Tanya Beverly, Cosmic Force, Cheney Valley Singers, and several folks that are going to be out there. And then there's going to be a lot of educational booths, resource booths. There will be vendors, but it's going to be a cashless event because the city wanted everyone to get permits for a one-day event, and we're just going to do cashless and, you know, that type of deal. I think most people have that tap stuff nowadays. So, but yeah, it's going to be awesome, you guys. I hope that folks come out and join us. Lots of good stuff happening. Tanya Beverly will be hosting it again. Yeah, so hope you guys come out and join us. There's no fences. It's a free event. Promise you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing about IndigiFest. Yeah, so another question we wanted to ask, you mentioned kind of honoring all the different nations within the title of IndigiFest, but also in your work at Three Sisters Gardens, you mentioned also the Yocha Dehe Wintun tribe, right? So I wanted to ask kind of what are the practices and knowledge that you've learned from these nations in working on the farm?
Yeah, definitely. When I say all nations, I mean all nations. Um, we do have a kind of a side joke going that, I always say that it's native indigenous led, and then my team says, yeah, it's Filipino ran, because at one point in time, like three of our farm folks managers were Filipino. So, but all seriousness, we have many, many groups that come out and join us. But like for native practices in particularly, we're able to connect with the native indigenous tribes and learn about, their ways. And right now we're growing 4 beds for the Sacramento Native American Health Center Healing Ways Diabetes Program. And we're doing that under the guidance of Sage LaPena, who's a herbologist and quite literally a medicine woman. I think she's from the Wintun Nation. Also another, I believe, forgive me if I'm not quoting it correctly, but we always look to, the local folks, tribal folks that are here, because again, they have the best knowledge and they will know what grows best here. But also with other native tribes that have been transplanted or have lived here, so that, it's inclusive, and then not just tribal people, we have, folks that come out and have farmed in other countries that, connect with us, and, either we grow the same way or, it's just a little bit different, but we're never, ever, ever think that we know it all. We're always wanting to connect and, learn different and new ways to grow food for the people.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. No, thank you for sharing that as well. Another question we wanted to ask is, you mentioned the food. You're on a farm. What kind of crops have you been growing? And what are your particular favorites to grow, and like potentially any recipes perhaps to share?
Yeah. Yeah. So we grow seasonal vegetables year round, and almost everything that we grow is a specialty crop. So, what's a specialty crop? Well, anything that isn't used as a byproduct or feed. So, like corn, wheat, rye, soy, something that they use to put into another product to make something else, or something that they use to feed animal. Um, so we grow mainly, well, this time of year, Three Sisters, the corn, beans, and squash, which are a particular favorite of mine, not just because they taste so good, but because of the intercropping of them. And I'll share the story real quick. So corn takes a lot of nitrogen to grow, and so beans are natural nitrogen fixers. So you plant the corn, let the corn get about maybe 12 to 18 inches tall, then you plant the beans next to it. The beans are adding nitrogen into the soil, allowing the corn to get a little boost and get taller. And then the beans can take that ride going up the corn. They're working together already, two sisters. And then you plant the squash. And if anyone has seen a squash plant, the leaves get really big. So they cover the ground, right? So that keeps the sun from burning up the soil. So allows the soil to retain the moisture. And also, if the sun can't get to that soil where some of the weeds are down there, it's inhibiting the weeds and slowing them down. So those big squash leaves are covering the ground, not letting that sun get in, keeping the moisture in the soil. And also, squash grows really fast. We're harvesting every day. So those are three plants that grow perfectly well together. But yeah, as far as like specialty crops, we do lettuce, many varieties of lettuce. We do tomatoes. Right now, our tomatoes are all coming in. We do three varieties of tomatoes. We do four varieties of cucumbers. We do soyo long. We do striped Armenian. We do market more and cool customer. The four tomatoes or it's three, excuse me. We do New Girl, which is like a round slicer, about a about a hardball size. And then we do a red cherry tomato and an orange cherry tomato. We do pole beans, climbing beans. We do bush beans. I can go on and on and on. All told, we do around 40 different crops that we grow, and we do probably around at least 10 to 12 herbs and a lot of California native flowers on our perimeter. My favorite, though, very, very, very favorite to eat, might have to be the cucumbers. Because you can just grab a cucumber and you can just be eating that. And the cucumber got a lot of water in it. On a warmer day like today, you're going to help stay hydrated. And you can't eat them all, I promise you.
I love that. Oh my goodness. You should share the recipe later on. But no, thank you again for sharing all of that. One more question from me. What kind of, sorry, for those who don't live in Sacramento, where near Sisters Gardens, what do you recommend people can do to support food sovereignty efforts and supporting local tribes in their areas?
Yeah, definitely, always try to support local mom and pop. If you can know them, that's better, keeping money in your communities. Um, but that's one of my best suggestions. Can you ask the question again, though? I want to answer it. I kind of missed it.
Yeah, yeah. So, for people who don't live near in Sacramento, where Three Sisters Gardens is, right? Because that's definitely one way for people to get involved with food sovereignty and supporting local tribes and nations. For those who don't live near Three Sisters Gardens,
Yeah.
what are
Okay.
other ways that people can get involved in the work that Three Sisters Gardens does? Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you again. No, I mentioned earlier, and I know you guys are always seeking support. And, if you're not in the area, for us, you could call in and support. But for you in your area, support local farmers markets, try to know who's growing your food and where it's coming from. And then for like food sovereignty efforts, quite honestly, man, I've been telling folks, man, that you don't have to ask for permission to do the right thing. If we did that, we would never have gotten started. Our original farm is a guerrilla garden, and we're not shy to say that. We do pay all the taxes on the land now because we know that that's one thing the government does really care about. So we'll figure that out in the long run. But knowing that um, it is an emergency. It's been an emergency. When we have our friends and loved ones out there dying in the street outside of vacant buildings, hungry, cold, it's an emergency. It's been affecting us before COVID-19. it's going to be on us to stand up, to say something, to do the right thing. The only reason why, evil or bad things happens because, good people stay silent. So I say, use your voice, advocate, stand up, be brave, in these trying times, but never, ever, ever put yourself at risk. Um, you know, be wise, and, when you go out and you stand up and if you choose to say something, but always, I was mentioning earlier, that when, things failed, our systems, and we didn't know where to turn, our farms, was the answer. That's what kept growing and kept us moving. So it's a way to build community. It's a way to grow healthy food. It's a way to resist. So that's my advice.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for that advice. I think, especially right now during these very trying times with a very hostile presidential administration, it's really important for us to find community and support each other in different ways, many different ways, right? So one of the speakers actually had one more question about related to what's going on the federal level, and they're wondering if there was any impact on the farm because of what's going on, right, with the political climate. Like, have there been any kind of special, I don't know, actions that TSG has been taking, or like, yeah, just any other advice for that as well.
People power. People power. That's where it's at. Recently we got offline social media. I keep telling people we got off the hard stuff. You know, they're censoring, demonetizing. Now it's quite literally a new Red Scare, McCarthyism. They're going after people, and so for me, it was no brainer to do the right thing for the people. But be smart, and for us in particularly, we had a really large grant that was sitting on Biden's desk, and now it's just sitting on Trump's desk, and very likely not going to be signed. It's $20 million, and that would have paid for our community center and then some. But you know, we're not totally reliant upon them. We acknowledge them, we see them, and we're continuing to build on the local level. And that's my biggest piece of advice, that sure, you can look out far and see what's happening, but don't forget to look right here at home and say, what are you doing? Because holding ourselves accountable, holding each other accountable, and it's always going to be about action for me. Never talk. We could talk. I feel kind of like a hypocrite now. I've been talking for a minute, but we do have these 4 farms going, tree nursery, a small building we opened, and continuing to think big, so that, when it comes to the needs of our community that's been heavily hit with gang injunctions, over criminalizing our youth, food deserts, we realize that this is by design. And the only way that we're going to be able to make a difference is that if we design things, if we organize. In the words of Ruby Ibarra, says that I don't pray, I organize. And I do hope that you guys come to IndigiFest June 14th, 2025, 5 to 10 p.m., West Sacramento Riverwalk. You guys, you'll be able to hear Ruby and a lot more. That's how we organize and we move the people. It's way more than just growing lettuce. Each and every one of you is a force. Each and every one of you can accomplish and do amazing things. Work yourself, work with each other, and continue to build in a positive way for a better future, you guys. But I do appreciate you all listening to me, and I'm open for any more questions. But yeah, thank you all so much.
Um, Thank you, Alfred. One last question from another guest. They just wanted to know your favorite story of working at the farm, your favorite or your funniest story.
Man, it's every day. But I will say that for me, my favorite or the best thing about the farms is that we work with the at potential high promise youth. So youth that are on the margin, some that have been in trouble or likely could be in trouble. And for me, in a lot of ways, I get to go back and talk to my younger self. I get to be the support, you know. So it's a great and amazing job. It's self-satisfying for me because I get to be there for these folks and support our future leaders. But I will admit, at the same time, there is a selfish aspect to it because I have my 8-month-old son and my 3-year-old daughter. And as I strengthen every corner of my community by supporting the youth that are going to be here for a lot longer than me, that, we're all going to be stronger together, is my hope.
No, that's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that about your family. One last question, just on the topic of youth and how TSG has been like engaging with them. Yeah, could you just describe a little bit more of kind of the intergenerational work? It sounds like you've been doing not just working with youth, but also elders and just all ages, right, at Three Sisters Gardens. So, like, kind of describe more of that work a little bit.
Well, of course, and I don't mind. You guys can keep asking questions. I don't have nowhere else to be right now. I promise you. But for me, working with YAP Potential High Promise Youth is the highest honor. It's a sacred duty. So, in touching on that just a little bit, recently we hired a case manager, a life skills coach, so that we can offer them more support. Because we understand that there's a lot of challenges, and anybody knows that. Tumultuous times, um, being able to offer wraparound services and, make sure that our youth are being, represented and cared for. So, yeah. Is there another part of the question I can answer?
I think that described it. Like you, oh, I guess, have you also done work with other kind of generations, not just youth, but also elders and connecting them together as well? So the intergenerational kind of work or
No,
connections.
sure. We have all ages out at the farm. So anybody, welcome you guys to come out and volunteer. Um, Today we had Peggy at the farm and she had knee surgery and she's just coming back. She's been back like for 4 or 5 months now, here and there. But she is an elder. She's a white woman, and I say that, but we don't see things. But just to kind of mention that it's all ages, all races, rainbow mix of people, and you know she makes everybody feel comfortable. She definitely has that elderly tone and care for all of us. But we have elders that'll come out and just sit down and just watch and see what's going on, because you don't have to get out there, get your hands in the soil and be doing something physical. You could just be telling a story. You could just be participating by being there. So I paint this picture, and I just ask you all to put me to the test and come on out and see what we got going on. But there's all ages, and you guys will see. Come out to a Skillshare that we have going on, and please follow if you guys are not on our webpage. We do have a good webpage and a link tree. Again, we don't do social media, but we do update our webpage really frequently. So, yeah.
Really appreciate everything you've shared today, Alfred. Those are all the questions so far. If there's any last minute ones, please send them now or forever hold your peace. Um, but yeah, so with that, as we're coming to the end of this session, just want to say again, thank you so much, Alfred and Three Sisters Gardens, for coming to this, for showing up for this series and just sharing your story, your experiences, and a lot of amazing kind of advice and just actions that our communities can take, whether it's supporting at the farm or telling stories, like you said, Alfred. And so, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you as well to all of the guests and attendants here for showing up and being part of this lecture series. As a reminder, we will be uploading this recording and all of the resources that we've shared in the chat. We will share all of this via newsletter, and we will also upload them on our website, amatokaya.org. And if y'all want to stay updated for our next speakers, I believe we have another one this Friday at noon with Hummingbird Farm. So another farm. So would really love to see y'all there as well if you're able to. And again, we will share all this information after this session. But thank you again, and take care, Alfred, and take care, everyone.
Bye, you guys.
Thank you.